Welcome again to the HS Awareness Week Virtual Summit. I want to get started by kind of talking a little bit about what we were hoping to do with this summit. This is really about providing resources to patients. This is about providing products as well, because we have partnered with some amazing sponsors who have helped us to not only fund this program, but just provide you with all of the programming that you're getting all this week until June 7th. So I really want to give a shout out and a thank you to the Mama IU, the HS Foundation, for her cosmetics, and also Hydra Wear. Thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for investing in a community that I love dearly and that is going to be served more wholly in the future. In my personal life, I've used natural medicine to help bring my condition into remission. I don't say cure because I still am dealing with HS, unfortunately, and it did come back. However, I've had some success of my own with becoming a vegan and adopting a vegan diet, which I did over a 2.5-year period. And then I started exercising and began paying attention to what I was putting in my body. So I went from eating probably no veggies and pretty much meat and pizza and ribs and burgers and things like that to a very plant-based holistic diet. I'm not perfect, so that's not what I'm here to tell you, because I am trying to cut my ties with sugar, but it has me by the has me in a chokehold at this point. I know I'm not alone, because I know there's probably a lot of people who also have a very high addiction to sugar like I do, but we're all working to find what is good for us. And so that is what my goal is for today, is to talk about what patients can do, not only with physicians, but for themselves. I think a lot of times with HS, we feel disempowered. We feel as though we have no control over this condition and we can't do anything to stop what's happening to our bodies. That might be true to a certain extent. However, the small amount of control that we do have, I love to empower patients to take control over. And so for me, it was diet, exercise, losing weight. I was 350 pounds. I lost 160 plus pounds. And like I said, that was over a probably 2.5 to 3 year period. A lot of times when people start dieting to see if HS will help change anything, sort of like what they call the elimination diet. So that's stripping different things out of your diet to see what may be triggering your HS. They often get discouraged because sometimes the HS doesn't react immediately. Sometimes it gets worse. I know that my condition got worse before it got better, unfortunately. Our bodies go through what's called a purging system sometimes when we do very clean diets. So all of that nasty gook that we have in our bodies is kind of coming out. It comes through our skin. It comes through all of the passageways that we relieve ourselves through, basically. So that's the pores, that's the skin, and you guys know the rest. So if there's anyone who is looking to go the natural route with managing their HS, I would say please hold on and do as much research as possible. There are Facebook groups that are available online that patients are communing together to talk about their experiences. And then know that no one thing is going to work for everyone. Sometimes it may be diet, other times it might be genetics, other times it might be other things that that doctors haven't discovered yet. So it's really a test and trial type of situation. However, I've found when I stuck to it and I empowered myself through the entire process, I found some results, even if it wasn't a complete remission of everything. Because I did have to have surgery. I had CO2 laser surgery and plastic surgery. So I got the CO2 under my arms, and I don't have it under my armpits anymore. I got it on my thigh, my stomach, and I think that was it, I believe. And so the whole process does help, because if you lower inflammation within the body, at least I know for my case, it was I had a better chance of getting surgery. So I had a better chance of getting CO2 and plastic surgery, which means that I don't have so much inflammation to the point where after I get these surgeries that the HS will come back. So I haven't had any more boils in my armpits or anywhere that the CO2 laser was done. Unfortunately, when I got the plastic surgery procedure in the groin area, not only did I have a botched surgery, but I had the HS come back. And I think that's the importance of doing the research that we need to find the physicians and the surgeons who know how to treat HS. I know that there are many people probably who have experienced what I have in having a botched surgery. I think that I was doing what was best. We are doing what we think is best for us. We are trying to find some type of normalcy and bring that back into our lives because we feel like our lives are gone. And so if you are in the same place that I was, or I am in, because I'm still looking for new surgeons so I can get reconstruction and get the rest of the HS that is on my body cut off, then make sure you do your due diligence and research. Make sure that the surgeon you're not the first patient that they're working on, that they've worked on several patients and those patients have had high success rates. It's important that they know how to take out the HS because, for instance, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this tomorrow with Dr. Hamzavi, who was my physician for, I think he's been my physician for over a decade. He's been my dermatologist and he did my CO2 laser procedures. And I know when he took out my whole armpit, like probably at the palm of my hand, it was as big as the palm of my hand. And so he had to, at first they didn't think it was gonna be that big, but because when they lift the skin with the laser, they found that the tunnels were going in all different types of places. So if doctors don't go deep into the skin and get those tunnels and suture them and close them off as best as they can, there is a higher chance of you getting HS again. So that's why it's important to have a doctor who knows how to approach the surgery and can get you the help that you actually need so that you can live the life that you want to live without having to worry about boils and pus and open wounds and scar tissue. This is about empowering ourselves once again. So I kind of want to go into talking about what HS is, because I know that each session we've kind of been talking about this. But before I do that, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, there's a Q&A section that you can type in your questions. I would love to just get a conversation going. How are you feeling today with your HS? What is it like right now for you? What are you experiencing? What do you need answers to? And I just want to start a dialogue right here. While you guys think about your questions and what you want to ask and how you want the conversation to go, I want to show a card that I made for my my documentary. I made a documentary, for those who don't know, about HS for my master's degree at the University of Southern California. Jay Kennedy, would you mind typing your question either in the chat or the Q&A for me? I love that you raised your hand though, but if you could do the Q&A, that would be great, or the chat bubble. Yeah, so my doctor is Dr. Iltafat Hamzavi. So you can type in, I'll type it here in the chat. He is a physician that works in Henry Ford in Detroit, Michigan. He has a practice called Hamzavi Dermatology. And he not only has that, but he also works out of Henry Ford Hospital in what's called the HS Clinic. That's where I found Dr. Hamzavi. He's a very great, very caring physician. He's probably one of the best physicians that I've dealt with while dealing with HS. Most of the physicians, unfortunately, and I know I'm not the only one, I've had instances where I've gone to offices and I've gotten I remember I had one of the biggest boils that I had gotten in a very long time before I moved to California 2 years ago. I had it in the buttock and groin area, unfortunately. It was the size of a golf ball, I want to say, or not a golf ball, I'm sorry. It was like a tennis ball, honestly. It was huge. Couldn't move. I was sick for 2.5 weeks. And I went to a physician to get it lanced. The doctor was great, but the nurse was very, very insensitive. Some of the practices that they asked me to do, like a sitz bath, they wanted me to sit in bleach. I was not comfortable with that just because I know bleach causes cancer. And like I said, I'm a person who is very much into natural medicine, so it did not sit right with me. And instead of trying to work with me, the nurse, she kind of just antagonized me during the time I was very vulnerable. I was crying, I was bloody, I was a mess. And so if there are any physicians that are watching or any clinicians that are watching, just know that when HS patients come to offices and come to you, it's important to be understanding about where they are in their struggle, what they need and what they're experiencing. I believe that the doctor-patient relationship should be one where you're working with the patient, with their comfort, with their comfort level, because not everybody is open to doing all of the different things that doctors want to do. It's not about being combative, but it is about working with the physician so that you can get the best treatment possible for you where you are in your life. So I'm just reading the comments right now. Yeah. I think, I don't know if their offices are closed right now, Dr. Hamzavi's office. I guess when you tune in tomorrow, we can ask him those questions about, is he accepting new patients? What's that process like? As you know, COVID is going on right now, this pandemic. And so a lot of doctors' offices are slowly opening back up. I know that, for an example, my optometrist, they're open back up, but some of the doctors' offices are, I think, are a little bit slower. Just reading some more of the comments. Yeah, you know, the size of HS, the boils can range from pea-sized, because I've had whiteheads, what seems like a whitehead. That is, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, please let me know. But I've had like whitehead, pea-sized, like little cysts or boils or whatever they are, and they've hurt worse than the bigger ones sometimes. Like I've had some on my back and they've been very painful. And I'm not gonna say that they're worse, because they're not. When I've had golf ball size, they're bigger, they've been very tough to deal with, very tough. And so they can be bigger than a golf ball and they can be smaller than pea-sized, which I don't know how much smaller you can get, probably the size of like a zit. I've had ones that were like that hurt really bad. Let me know if you've experienced that as well. And so HS at any level, at any size is very uncomfortable. We all know this, at least the patients that are here tuning in. It really doesn't matter whether you're stage 1, early stage 1, which is you have like 1 or 2 boils that are under the armpit or somewhere on your body. And then stage 2 is sort of those tracts becoming interconnected. And then stage 3 is full scar tissue, no normal skin, interconnected scar tissue and tracts. It's very painful, but at each stage, it can be life-changing. We all know this. So it's not a battle of who has it worse than who. It's just about getting the help that we need, right? So Henry Ford Hospital is great. It's definitely worth the 4-hour drive. I live all the way in California now, so I wish that I could work with them on getting some more of my surgeries, but unfortunately, because I live across the country now, I have to find someone here, which in LA, I'm glad someone asked about any places in LA. I have, and this actually reminds me, I'm going to be sending out a packet at the end of the summit. where we have a list of resources for you all as far as like groups you can join, offices you can call and go to. It's not going to be every state, but we're just going to give you some basics to get you started with your research, because we want to make sure that you have what you need so that you're educated, so that you have a baseline. And so I found some plastic surgeons, and surprisingly in LA, this is the land of plastic surgery. Everyone here has gotten something done, I think, at least in Hollywood. And so surprisingly, as I was looking for HS surgeons, a lot of the plastic surgery facilities here do HS surgeries. Now, do I know if they are effective? No, I don't. Because it could just be a surgeon who is, I'm not going to say jumping on the bandwagon because that sounds a little kind of dismissive, but I know that some doctors are trying to help patients, but might not know the full extent of the condition. So I did find a office here who was specializing in HS. I'm going to find that and I'll make sure to put it in the packet. And they, unfortunately, I think the other frustration, and let me know if you experience this too, but when I've gone to try to get plastic surgery or de-roofing or anything of that nature, well, not de-roofing because I haven't gotten de-roofing done, but plastic surgery, it's not covered by insurance. So the insurance that I have currently, when I was going to the office that I went to, they told me that I would have to pay $10,000 out of pocket to get the surgery. And I was trying to get it done in the buttock area. And so it's very unfortunate. It's very disheartening because I don't have $10,000. I don't have that money. And if you have that lying around, good for you. But I definitely don't. Not right now in my life. But those are kind of some of the struggles that I know I've dealt with. Let me know if you've experienced that as well when you're trying to get surgery procedures done. So yeah, Dr. Levtov. Dr. Levtov, actually, I've been speaking to him because we are working directly with the HS Foundation. So he is one of the individuals who helped to get this sponsorship. I don't know a lot about him, but from our conversation that we've had so far, I think he's a great guy. Of course, this is about doing research on your own, because I don't want to mislead you or misguide you. I just want to let you know what my experiences are, and from there you can sort of go and do your own extensive research and tailor your medicine and practice for yourself. Yeah, HS isn't really covered, and it's unfortunate. And it's frustrating because they think it's cosmetic, but it's really medically necessary. It affects every fabric of our lives, from mental to physical. There's so much pain involved. I remember when my mother was speaking to me about doing a grievance for a service several years ago. And I almost got pushed to the point where I was just like, if I need to, I'll take pictures of what my HS looks like and send it to them so that they understand, so the healthcare agencies understand what I'm dealing with. This is not cosmetic. This is not a cosmetic procedure. This isn't a blemish on my face. This isn't, and that's not to take away from individuals who want to address things like that, but those are very cosmetic surgeries. What we're dealing with is something that is not only dealing with the skin, but it's dealing with something that's going on internally. And I think that's what a lot of what we want to do with this awareness, the awareness week that we're doing now, is educating people on what HS is so that they understand how it affects patients' lives. There's a question. They said, hello, thank you for this wonderful seminar. I'm having trouble finding a doctor that knows about HS where I reside. I've also had the insensitive doctors, nurses. Do you have any contacts in Alabama by any chance? Jay Kennedy, I do not have any contacts in Alabama, but that does not mean that I cannot find any. What I will do is talk to the HS Foundation, because they are very linked and connected with a lot of physicians across the world, not only in the US, but in Europe, in Asia. in Australia. And yes, HS goes international as well. It reaches all across the world. And that's why it's no longer considered a rare disease, because there are millions of people who are affected by it. But unfortunately, there's not enough research or statistics. There's not enough surveying that's been done to really see the magnitude of this condition and how many people it affects. But as we can see, it seems like more and more people are coming out and saying that they have HS. So although I do not have that answer for physicians in Alabama, that does not mean that I cannot get those for you. So I'm gonna make a note right now to include Alabama HS physicians. I'm so sorry, Jay Kennedy, and any other patient who has experienced any insensitivity by physicians, by nurses. Their ignorance can fuel the way that they treat other individuals, because if you don't know, then you kind of just treat anyone any type of way sometimes, and that does not give them a pass at all, because all doctors should be educated as much as possible on the ailments and chronic illnesses that are prevalent in our society. However, that doesn't stop us from coming in contact to insensitive doctors and nurses. But know that you are supported. Know that if you ever need to talk about it, you can talk about it. You can talk about it, whether it be you emailing mygoldliningdoc@gmail.com, and we can have a conversation, because I know sometimes it's just getting that off your chest. You can talk to a therapist. Yesterday we talked to Dr. Aaron Martinez, and you can sort of work through those issues and those problems and what you're dealing with internally while dealing with HS, because I know it can be a lot and it's a burden. I have another question about, is laser worth it and how much? I don't know how much CO2 laser was, because the first time that I got it in a clinical trial, and the second time I got it, the second, third, and fourth time I got it, it was covered by my insurance, thank God. So I'm not sure how much it is, but is it worth it? Absolutely. It's absolutely worth it. So what they do is they take a CO2 laser. The laser only penetrates to a certain layer of the skin, and they cut out, they mark with a marker the area that they're going to do the incision with the laser. Then they go and take off the skin. So I saw my skin literally off my body, which was weird. It was very, very weird. And then under that is tissue and things of that nature. I don't know everything about skin and dermatology, but I believe it was tissue. And so what they did was they went and they saw the tracks and the open wounds, because under the skin, so we have the top of the skin where the tracks and the scar tissue is. And so under that, when they take off the skin, you'll see the tunnels and the tracks that are under, because it's like an interconnected web. HS is to me is very interesting, because I wonder what causes it and why. And that was some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And so with that, they went in and they burned the tracks. They cut to make sure that the tracks were just, they cut them as far as they could find them as deep as they go, and they burn them closed, or they sew them closed, they suture them closed. And then after that, they leave it open for it to heal on its own. The skin comes together. I've seen a lot of patients deal with the open arm, like healing surgery. I don't know if that was plastic surgery or CO2 or what, but I know for me, they left it open, and we sort of used Vaseline, Telfa, gauze, and and tape and things like that to help that wound to close. I've seen some patients who doctors don't give them anything to put under their arm, and I just could not imagine experiencing that, because the first 2 weeks, and I know my mom could attest to this because she was my caregiver throughout my whole HS surgery experience, that it would have been very uncomfortable, because that skin on skin, it's raw skin on raw skin. So I don't have any recommendations in that area, but I can say that it's a lot. Yeah, laser, it was $150 per session and couldn't afford more. Yeah, I'm sorry that you weren't able to get the full surgery, because I know that that's difficult. The recovery time for the first time when I first got it was a year. The second time was about 6 months. The third time was about 6 months. So I think it's 6 months to a year. It could be longer than that, I'm not sure. But after the first couple of weeks, you can kind of go back to your regular life. It doesn't really, I mean, I'm not gonna say it doesn't affect you, because it does. However, it's easier to manage 2 weeks in, because whatever film or layer is covered in that area makes it easier for you to like do wound care and things like that. So I'm reading another comment that says, oh, I didn't know there were different stages. Then I might be stage 2 or 3. Never seen an HS professional. I've always used home remedies, had surgery done by a general surgeon, not very well done because it gets inflamed often. Yeah. General doctors never pay attention to my cyst until it gets really bad in December. It only took 16 years to learn I have HS, and I'm glad I found a group in this seminar. It's great. We thank you so much for even joining this seminar. We're so happy to have you. I'm so sorry it took 16 years. Our goal is to close that gap. I think about constantly what would have happened if I would have gotten care within the first couple of months or weeks that I knew I had HS at 11 years old. I got it when I was 11. And by the time I was in high school, I was all covered in HS. So I had stage 3. So it's very difficult. But I know physicians are working to close that gap so that patients can get the help that they need. So I did work. While I was doing CO2. I'm the type of person that I'm always on the go regardless of what is happening in my life, unless something completely takes me out, which, like I said, that boil that I had, that I was down for 2.5 weeks, that was the only time that I really couldn't do anything. I literally couldn't get out of bed. It was difficult to use the bathroom. It was difficult to wash myself. We all know, you know what I mean? And that was in the groin area. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And I know I'm not the only one who is experiencing that. I'm gonna answer some of these questions. Thank you, Jay Kennedy, for answering that question. Asking that question. So Steph is asking, I have a fairly useless family doctor who only works 1 day a week, and it would take me 3 weeks to get an appointment. He always rushes through appointments. Yeah, I don't feel heard, and I got put on a wait list for a year for a doctor in Ottawa. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Ontario, and they just called and told me that it'll be another 2 years to see someone. Wow, because apparently someone didn't get the right paperwork. Wow, I'm tired, and I just want someone who cares, who I can depend on. The emergency room doctors are so rude. Yeah, emergency room is not the best because you need to see a dermatologist. You need to know somebody who understands the skin. Steph, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry that you're having to deal with that. That is so difficult. It's so frustrating. I hear you. You are heard. You are seen. Please email us because once again, I want to make sure that I get you the resources that you need. So you live in Ottawa, Ontario. And you know, the funny thing is, the HS Foundation has these symposiums that they put on annually each year. And a lot of them have been actually in Canada. So if I have that right, Ontario is in Canada. I'm not good with geography, I'm sorry. So if that is in Canada, there should be some physicians that you can go to. So I wrote that down, and I'm gonna make sure that I get resources for you. I'm gonna write our email down here too. So email me personally so that we can figure something out, because that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't have to deal with that, and we're gonna do whatever we can to help you. Just email us, and we're gonna try to work and see if I can find you someone that is not gonna take 2 years for you to see someone. That's absolutely ridiculous. That should not be the case at all. So I'm sorry once again, but please email us, and we'll work our best to find you some solutions for sure. An anonymous attendee said, do you think racism in public health system is correlated to the lack of research in HS, considering it's been found to predominantly affect African-American community? I know who it affects is also still not accurate because of the misdiagnoses. I've been thinking about HS awareness as well as the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's been heavy on my heart how true how true if racism affects one of us, it affects all of us. Very true. I can only speak to a little bit of that because I've only had, I know a little bit about the racism in healthcare. It is very true. It's very prominent. There has not been a lot of research for the African-American community and people of color with HS. Primarily, the studies have been with Europeans, and so unfortunately, the system, the American health system has a history of racism. It has a history of sexism, and a quick Google search will allow you to know about some of that information. It's very important for us to talk about the lack of care for the African-American community as far as finances go, as far as access to physicians go. And that is something that people are addressing. That's something that we definitely want to cover. If that's heavy on your heart, I would love to talk to you about what you're thinking as far as like raising awareness for that, because that's something that we definitely want to tap into, because all communities should be served. It's not just the European community. It's not just the African-American community. It's not just the Native American community. It's everybody that needs to be served. And so African-American women, we are the largest subgroup affected by HS. And there's not a lot of solid data showing that, unfortunately, but some of the studies that have been conducted do show a prevalence within our community. So I do think that racism in public health system is correlated with the lack of research in HS for sure, definitely. And that's something that needs to be worked on. So please email me personally, because I would love to talk to you about what some ideas that you have. And of course, you'll stay anonymous. I'm the only individual that'll know that you're contacting us. So I would love to have that conversation because I think it's something that needs to be talked about more in the community because it's not. And it's important to me because I'm Black and I'm a woman. So it affects me as well. I haven't had direct experiences with racism in the public health system, not blatantly, which I thank God for that. But I know that there are other individuals who are African-American and people of color who have. So my experience is not going to take away from what others have experienced. And just because I've had a good experience doesn't mean others have. And I acknowledge that. And I want to do everything I can in my power to help to lower that gap. So please feel free to email me. Stem cell or funding research, LG Tribute Empire. If you can elaborate on that, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if you can kind of elaborate on that, or if you have a question regarding that, let me know. Steph, you were saying that you lived in Ottawa to go to university for 5 years and your health got bad. You had to move back east of the greater Toronto region. So I'm back, okay, in Toronto. I would definitely, okay, absolutely, yeah. So I'll write down Toronto. I really feel like there's probably a physician that we can connect you with for sure. You shouldn't have to deal with that. So we're definitely going to help you as much as possible. So I do want to go into, I'm going to share my screen with you all. So this is a card that we created during the HS, during a film I created called My Gold Lining, a documentary on hidradenitis suppurativa. I just want to tell you a little bit about it because it highlights exactly what the anonymous attendee was saying, which was the disparity in the African-American community. It doesn't solely focus on that, but the perspective in the film is from me, myself, obviously an African-American woman, and another woman who is a beauty influencer from Maryland who has the condition. I talk about my experience from a stage 3 perspective, and Janae Allure, or Antonia Janae, who is the beauty influencer, talks about her experience as a stage 1 patient. And so we talk about relationships, we talk about caregiving, and we talk about the genetic and gut health connection to HS within this documentary. We give it all as much as possible to educate, and that's what this documentary was really about. And one of my favorite sayings that my father has always said to me since I was a young girl is giving up is never an option. And that's why it's so prominent on the posters, because I really want to instill for HS patients that giving up is not going to find a solution for you. You have to keep fighting. You have to keep fighting for yourself, for future generations, for current research. And I know it's hard. It's very hard. It's hard to wake up every single day and be present in our bodies. It's very hard to face the realities of having HS. We grieve a lot. I grieved for so long with the fact that I couldn't go swimming, that I couldn't wear white, that anytime I sat on anything, there was blood. We go through all of that grieving. And it is important to work through those emotions. But the important thing too is also to never give up. This fight is not only for you, but it's for everyone else out there affected by HS. And no matter if we get a boil today, you know, if you get one after this summit, or if you have one now, know that you are very strong in standing with HS, and you're very strong with, you're just a warrior. You're an amazing warrior. So the documentary, we created this during our screenings. We had screenings in LA at Sony Pictures Entertainment in Culver City. That was our first screening for this documentary. And then we also had a screening in Detroit, Michigan, in Troy, at New Wave, I think it's not New Wave, but Next Wave Media. And that was a great facility to have this film. So we kind of wrote this card so that people understand what HS is. And so for those who don't understand what HS is, right? Hidradenitis suppurativa is a skin condition that causes small to large painful boils and cysts to form under the skin. The lumps can break open and form tunnels under the skin. The condition mostly affects areas where the skin rubs together, such as the armpits, groin, buttocks, and breasts. HS can affect one spot or multiple areas of the body, as we all know. I remember watching a documentary for this show, I think in the UK. And there was an individual who was a former football player for the University of Southern California, and he was also a sports reporter at the Los Angeles Times. He not only had HS on his armpits, but he had it on his head. I also have a friend, and I'm not going to mention his name just because of confidentiality, but he also had it on his head as well. HS does not only affect places that skin touches skin. I know people who have it on their back, who have it on their butt, who have it on their heads, who get it on their earlobes, who get it on their neck. HS can manifest anywhere on the body, but the common areas are the underarms, the thighs, the inner thighs, underneath the breast, the buttocks, the groin area. And some, like I said, some people have had it on the back of the neck and the ears. And so this is just an idea of what patients go through. And then we also have another slide that I want to show you. So what are the symptoms of HS? Some of the symptoms of HS, the first warning sign of hidradenitis suppurativa is sometimes just a single painful bump that gets inflamed. It can last for several days or several months. I know that I've had boils that have grown and then have shrunk. And then I've had some that have grown and grown and grown and grown and popped. I haven't really, when I have boils, or when I used to have stage 3 and have boils, it took a very long time for them to heal, if they even did. If I had tunnels and tracts underneath the skin, it seemed like the HS didn't heal at all. So I'm sure I'm not alone in that. there can be repeated outbreaks of a single bump in the same location or the same general area. The bumps can burn, can turn into pockets of pus under the skin and leak and have a bad smell. They can also be very itchy. So I want to talk about something that we kind of covered yesterday. Sometimes when people look at HS, they think that it is something that is an STD. There's no shame in having a sexually transmitted disease. However, this is not that. HS is not sexually transmitted. If you have sex with an individual and your HS touches their bare skin that is unaffected, they are not going to get HS. That is not how it works. HS is something that happens internally. It is not something that is topical alone. So I want to make that clear. Also, the itching. I know that I'm not the only one. I know that sometimes during the middle of the day, I have severe itching, especially at night. There's extreme itching on my body. And it's so ferocious sometimes because it's like, it feels like it's almost very deep. And I'm sorry that it's getting very graphic, but this is a safe space. We are here to talk about the real experiences of HS. So like sometimes if I have them, like I said, I have, you know, just to be very transparent, I have HS in the groin and buttock area. So they're extremely itchy areas, unfortunately, sometimes when dealing with this condition. It just is what it is, and that's my reality. I'm not gonna be afraid to talk about my reality because this is what I deal with. This is what we deal with. And if we don't talk about it, people won't know. So yes, I have HS in the groin and buttock area, and no, I am not ashamed of that. How do you treat HS? Actually, let's go to the chat. We have some individuals who have written, yeah, the itching is terrible. Yeah, it hurts. So like, I don't know if you've ever had an instance where, like I've had instances where the itching, I itch and then it doesn't hurt. And then other times I itch and then like 15 minutes later, the skin becomes super raw. I keep, you know what I want to do really quickly? Give me a second because I want to show you the bandages that I use because this might help someone too. Give me one moment, 1 second. So these are the bandages I use. It's Cardinal Health. We have gauze sponge. It's a USP type. I'm not good with Roman numerals. I think that's 6 or 7, 5, 6. I think that's 7. Sorry. It's by Curity in Cardinal Health. And I usually use, like I said, I have them in my buttock area. So I use like 3. And then I use now tape. We know that tape can be very itchy and it can actually make HS worse because like, I know I've had instances where I've used certain tape and that itch is worse than the HS and then my skin becomes broken and raw. So I finally found a tape that doesn't itch so bad. Sometimes it does if it's like left on the skin for a long time. So when I take it off, I make sure that I rub off the adhesive on whatever part of my skin is it's been sitting on. So this is called the 3M Medipore H. It's soft cloth surgical tape. It's also, I thought I saw something about it being, it's hypoallergenic. So this, I love this tape. I live by this tape and I use it all over my body. So regardless of where I have the HS, I use this along with the gauze. So this is what the gauze looks like. It's just regular gauze. I got this off of Amazon. So you can go on Amazon and get this. I got 2 of these big things for $17, and the tape, you can find it from different manufacturers. Sometimes you'll get 1 for $9, sometimes you'll get 2 for $9. So you just have to look and see what vendors are selling what. And so this usually lasts me, because I use this probably 4 or 5 times a day, because I switch it off when they get soiled. It unfortunately sometimes, it doesn't stop it from seeping through. If you have a lot of drainage, you'll need more padding. So just keep that in mind. I know that like Hydraware is developing something, not for, I haven't heard of anything for the groin area, but they have it for the armpits. They have padding that will help to absorb that drainage. So definitely go on Amazon if you are dealing with drainage and you want to make sure that you're secure throughout the day. This tape is great. My skin is highly sensitive. When I tell you highly sensitive, really anything, if I rub something that my skin hates, it immediately reacts. This works for me, and hopefully it'll work for you, along with the gauze, which will last me, I think, a month or two. I think that's around the general area, like 2.5 months or so. And that's for me using it 4 to 5 times a day. And I use 3 gauze like pads, like these little pads, 3 pads in like a little surgical, like not surgical, but a wound care type of deal. So we have some we have some questions. I'm sorry. What do I do for the itch? There's nothing really, oh, okay. So I'm not gonna say there's nothing. So recently, that's why I love our sponsor. This is not just a plug for our sponsor. I use Mama IU products as an HS patient on active areas. They have a Manuka Honey salve. If you don't know what Manuka Honey is a bush that grows, well, it's not Manuka honey, but the Manuka plant grows in a region in Australia. When bees pollinate that flower, it creates what's called Manuka honey. Manuka honey has been proven scientifically to help even the worst, like surgical wounds, to heal. Now, has it healed HS completely? I'm not gonna say that it has, but does it bring relief? Yes, it brings relief, because I just recently had I don't know if it was a boil, but my skin broke apart and it was burning anytime I took my gauze off. And the only thing that relieved that pain was the Manuka honey salve. So the Mama IU, her brand and what she's creating is all natural. Nothing in there will cause a reaction unless you're allergic to honey or you're allergic to the other ingredients, but all of it is all natural, and it's worked for me great so far. I use their soft black soap, and I also use the Manuka honey anytime, and that helps with the itching actually. So if you are experiencing that, I would recommend investing in that. And like I said, if you enter in our giveaway, you'll have the opportunity to get the Daily Essential Kit, which the Manuka honey is included in, okay? So if you enter in our giveaway, you'll have the opportunity to do that, because we have about, let me see, we have 4 more that we're giving away. So please enter that in, enter into that, because we want to make sure if you need it, you can get it. And if you don't win the prize, know that within our Eventbrite page, there's a link to the Mama IU, which you can purchase their Manuka honey salve. It's really great. It smells amazing, and it brings me relief all the time. It does. Steph says, in a support group, I once saw that some people buy temporary freeze spray to get the skin relief. Oh, I have no recommendation for that because I don't know. I have no idea about that. Yeah, I have no idea about that, unfortunately. So I want to go to the questions. Thank you, anonymous attendee. Yes, please email us. So glad. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it too. It's definitely something we need to focus on. Leslie, she said, how do we know when a new area may be developing? I've recently started to itch under my breast and am preparing for the worst, but I've never had anything before. Unfortunately, itching is a sign of HS possibly coming in that area. I can't say for sure, but some patients have experienced severe itching in an area before HS comes. I know that I have in the past. That's why sometimes when I get severe itching, I'm always scared that the HS is good, like I'm gonna get a new boil or something, but it's just really just this deep itch that's severely annoying. So I would say yes, unfortunately. And if you're experiencing that, maybe putting a hot compress in the area might help to kind of alleviate some of that inflammation. Turmeric. Turmeric is a natural remedy. It has curcumin. Curcumin helps to reduce inflammation within the body. We were talking about that yesterday. I started taking this, what's called golden milk, except I don't use dairy because I found that dairy, and there have been actual studies that have shown that dairy does aggravate HS. So if you are an avid dairy eater, I know it's going to be difficult to kind of like get away from eating dairy, but it's something that will help you in the long run. But you have to make that decision on your own. That's not anything that I can do for you. If you want to go down that road and take that journey, by all means. It worked for me. It may work for you. But dairy's for baby cows. So if you're not a baby cow, you shouldn't be drinking it anyway. I know dairy is amazing. When I put cheese on everything, but now I use vegan cheese. I use vegan cashew cheese. I don't use almond cheese or almond milk only because almonds have high estrogen, and I've already have a lot of estrogen, and I don't want to cause any hormonal imbalances in my body. So hormones can actually also play a factor in the persistence of HS as well. But cashew cheese, coconut milk, hemp milk are great. And they taste, for me, they taste the same. Oat milk, yes, Leslie, oat milk as well. And those are great alternatives. Yes, you'll have to get used to it. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that it tastes the same. It doesn't. Like milk, milk has a distinct taste. And milk, the reason why we crave it, if you don't know this, the reason why we crave milk is because it has this chemical in it called casein. Casein makes babies crave the milk, and so they don't strip it from the milk. So that's why you crave it, cheese and dairy and all that other stuff. However, if you want to experiment, I would say take dairy out your diet gradually and really see how it affects your HS and affects your whole body, because it's not just about HS. Dairy has an effect on our whole bodies. So like I said, you have to do what's right for you. I'm not here to tell you that it's going to work for you. I'm not here to tell you that it's not. All I'm saying is that my experience with taking it out of my diet, my HS improved significantly. And when I introduced it back into my diet, I got one of the biggest boils I had had in 3 years. So take what you want from that. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that question, Leslie. Definitely, if you can, invest in that Manuka Honey salve from the Mama IU, because I think that it will really help. It'll definitely really help. I feel like it won't cure anything. There's no cures for HS. I'm not selling cures. I'm not telling you there's a cure. I'm just telling you how I manage, how you can manage this condition. So I'm not telling you that, like, even the surgeries that I got, that wasn't a cure. I still have HS in my body. So if I didn't get those surgeries, I would still have HS. I would still be an HS patient. So I want to make that very clear. And I say that with love, because I know that there are a lot of people who say that they have cures, but unfortunately there's no scientifically proven cures or studies to show that there is a cure for HS. So I just want to make sure that we're not getting into the mindset of these things being cures for something like this, because it's not. Galaxy S9 Plus says, hello, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in this summit. My question is, if HS is caught early, are you confident HS can be controlled? From my personal experience, I have found myself in remission after horrible tracking and huge boils on your face, neck, armpits. But in private part, I feel like if someone would have told me 20 years ago how to care for myself, I may not have suffered so bad and so long. First aid and eating power, I'm assuming that you mean good food that heals the body, have turned my life around. I can be more specific, but don't have a platform here to do so. I do have a support group, SWOC Brother and Sister Warrior Hidradenitis support group. on Facebook. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I'm not confident that HS can be controlled if you catch it early. Once again, I'm not a physician, so I haven't done a lot of clinical research. That's something that we can definitely ask Dr. Hamzavi tomorrow, because I think he can speak to that better than I can and give you a very solid answer, because he's had years, decades of experience dealing with HS patients. That's just only my speculation, because I feel like when I did get the help that I needed, it was much more manageable. When I even, antibiotics didn't work for me. I had stage 3. It didn't do anything. I don't know if anybody else is out there taking antibiotics. I'm not saying that it's not going to work or it doesn't, but I know that the prolonged use of antibiotics kills the gut, bacteria, the good and the bad. So when you keep taking it, it keeps killing the bacteria that you need for your body to function. So I think that that is a negative that I don't like about antibiotics. And now that physicians and naturopathic physicians are coming out with more understandings about gut health, they're starting to understand that antibiotics are affecting our gut health. So I would be very careful in taking prebiotics and probiotics that are dairy-free can help too, because they do exist. They're at Whole Foods and some other health food stores. So I'm sure you can find some stuff online too. So I would definitely look into that. Once again, I'm not a physician, so these are all suggestions that I have in my personal life. So you can take it or you can leave it. It's up to you. And I'm open to all of that. Jay Kennedy, I'm assuming that you're saying, how can you enter the giveaway? If you go to our Instagram page, which I'll put in the comments really quickly, our Instagram page is at mygoldliningdoc. There is a page, there's a post about the giveaway, which we're probably gonna wrap up. We're over. But this has been a great conversation. So if you do want to stay on, by all means, because I do want to answer the rest of these questions, but, and I do want to get into the giveaway and kind of wrap up. But you can go onto our Instagram page, which is in the comments now. And all we need you to do is follow not only My Gold Lining, but our sponsors, which are listed under that post, and then comment done under that post, and you'll be entered into the giveaway. We are giving away not only the Daily Essential Kit from the Mama IU, but we're also giving away the underarm garment from Hydraware that helps to hold in, it's a garment that helps to hold bandages in place under the armpits. And then we also have a lipstick from For Her Cosmetics, a natural all vegan skincare cosmetic line that is resemblance of HS Awareness Week. So it's purple. We're giving away different shades of purple so that you can wear that HS pride, So I think, once again, our sponsors, and that's how you can definitely enter into the giveaway, which we're going to do shortly. So I'm going to post your Galaxy S9 Plus. I'm going to post your group in the chat so that people can follow. This is another way that you all can get involved in communities, okay? Follow that page for sure, because it's great to have communities online and in person. I joined a lot of communities online. I haven't joined a lot in person. I like the ones online. And they all have great resources, and they range from information and material. So I'm also a part of one that deals with marijuana. Marijuana has, some people do not like marijuana, let's be honest. But HS can, you can manage the pain through marijuana. And then also there's some, as we're starting to understand the different cannabinoids that are within cannabis, we're starting to understand how they may affect the body or help heal the body. So there is a group that I will put in that packet that I will be sending around after the summit, so that you guys can join and get some information if you would like to start using cannabis to help manage your HS. I haven't used any cannabis topically on my wounds yet. I do want to try what they call Rick Simpson oil. Rick Simpson oil is like a highly concentrated version of like THC and CBD, and I think it's some other cannabinoids as well. And then you can put it on your skin. And I've heard some patients say that it's helped. So once again, I'll put some more of that information and resources so that it'll be available for you. Steph says, how do you get rid of whiteheads that are constantly filling back up even after squeezing it out, like all over your breasts, and tons of blackheads in the areas and thighs? Yeah, those are pustules. I think those are called pustules. I'm in a clinical trial now for a medicine called Avacopan. It's supposed to help with HS. I've had some positive experiences with it so far. It has reduced the inflammation or the size of my scars, like the scar tissue. It hasn't really stopped the drainage that much, but once again, I'm not stage 3 anymore, so I'm around stage 1, 2 now. So it is helping a little bit, but for that, I would want to save that question for Dr. Hamzavi, because I feel like he can answer that question better than I can. So yeah, I'm going to save that for him. But thank you for asking that question, Steph. Leslie says she recently got her medical marijuana license, but you're having a hard time finding topical solutions as well as correct ratios of CBD versus THC that work. Yeah, so confused if smoking it makes it worse since doctors don't recommend smoking. Should I switch to edibles or topicals? So when they say don't smoke, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe they mean tobacco, like cigarettes, that's smoking, because I've smoked weed since I was an undergrad, since I was like, I think 19 or something like that. And so I'm 26 now. So that's like, it's good over a decade. And my HS hasn't gotten worse from smoking weed at all. Smoking tobacco has proven that it aggravates HS, but they don't have any studies about weed. And patients who have smoked it have actually said that it alleviates the pain for them, because like taking pain medication, like I said, I don't like pills. So I try to do things as natural as possible. And weed is one of those ways that I can alleviate pain without putting an addictive substance into my body and having to do that constantly. CBD oil is definitely also another non-psychoactive component of marijuana. So you don't have to get high. You don't have to experience that. CBD is non-psychoactive, so you won't get high, but you will feel the effects of being more relaxed, and you will have an alleviation of pain as well. So I wouldn't say you have to switch to edibles or topicals, but I would just encourage you to experiment with it. Experiment safely with it. And if you live in a state that's legalized for marijuana, both recreationally and medical, because I live in a state that is both legal medically and recreationally, so I can experiment all I want to without getting in trouble. Obviously federally it's still illegal, so there's that, but I would definitely recommend just sort of experimenting with it on your own as much as you can as possible. Depends on what area you live in too. The best vegan cheese brand, you tried Daya once, it wouldn't melt and it tastes yeah, Daya cheese is interesting. You have to, I mean, it melts, it sort of melts, not really. Follow Your Heart cheese is another one that's really good. Unfortunately, because I try to stay away from grains, and those brands have cornstarch in them, I don't eat those anymore, or I try not to eat them. Like I just realized that last week when I did my Instacart run. And so I was just like, okay, I need to get a different brand. And so Mayokos is one that does not have any grains in it, and it has less processed chemicals and stuff. So Diet and Follow Your Heart cheese are good for people who are trying to wean themselves off of cheese. There are also a lot of brands that don't have all of those different additives in them, even if they are vegan. Because something that, just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. Like, let's get that straight. Like, there are vegan foods that are highly processed, like Oreos. Oreos are vegan, believe it or not. They're not gluten-free, but they're vegan. But Oreos are not good for you. They're not necessarily good for you. That's still junk food. You know, there's no nutritional value there. So I would definitely look into that. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, bye. Love you all.